Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to, the last Israel brief for 2024. If you are joining me for the first time, I am Rolene Marks. This, of course, is the Israel brief brought to you in partnership with these guys, Lay of the Land. Now, before we get into the headlines on this day 452, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you for being my incredible support throughout this last year and since we actually started the Israel brief. The Israel brief was started largely out of my frustration as a journalist that people around the world were not getting Israel's side of the story and were not getting news from the ground in Israel without a narrative, without hearing from those of us who work on the ground here that they are getting in their mainstream media. I know that so many people have lost trust over the years, and especially, I would say, over the last year in the mainstream media and how they cover major world events. Now, the Israel brief is produced, it's filmed, it's put together by myself. I don't have a staff, it's done without funding. And I hope that what brings you to our channel, and the reason I say our is because I have another platform to share it on, and that is Lay of the Land. It goes out to our mailing list. And I hope that our authenticity, the fact that you hear the news from the ground in Israel, from an Israeli living through all our experiences here, reporting actually essentially from my bomb shelter, I hope that resonates with you. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me every day, sometimes on the most difficult of days. You are the reason that I keep going. So thank you. So let's get into the top stories for today. It is day 452. We have 100 hostages remained captive. As I said yesterday, that the weather here is very cold. There is a lot of rain. There's been a lot of flooding. We are desperately anxious for the state of our hostages being held in absolutely inhumane conditions. If you missed yesterday's broadcast about the report of what they are enduring, please go back and watch. But we also think of the civilians in the Gaza Strip who have been evacuated from the areas of combat and are also enduring horrific conditions. War is brutal, and we don't forget for 1 minute that this war was forced on all of us on the 7th of October with that brutal attack by the Hamas terrorist group. So let's start with the top story, and Hamas have rejected the latest hostage deal. According to reports, Hamas is refusing to release at least 12 of the 34 hostages that are still alive. They say that they are prepared to release 22 live hostages and 12 bodies. Now, Israel wants all of the hostages that remain alive to be released in the first phase of a possible ceasefire deal. From our perspective, every single one of those hostages that are presumed still alive are enduring a humanitarian catastrophe. We want them home as soon as possible to start the healing process. Now, Hamas has refused that, and an area for concern is that Channel 12 last night broadcast a report that Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that he intends for Israel to resume fighting in the Gaza Strip following the end of a possible ceasefire. This has alarmed both negotiators and the families of the hostages. Last night, the IDF intercepted yet another ballistic missile fired from the Houthis, the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen, towards central Israel. Or as we say here where I live and have to run for shelter now nearly every night, another dash to our mamad, another dash to our shelters. The missile, which is the latest of a ramped up effort from the Houthis to fire missiles and drones towards Israeli population centers, was intercepted before it reached Israeli airspace. Now, the reason that we are sent to our shelters is because even though the missile does not enter the debris field, is still effectively inside of our sovereign territory. In fact, debris fell not too far from where my city Modi'in is, in the city of Beit Shemesh. You can actually see photographs of large chunks of debris, either from the missile or the interceptor missiles. A teenager was moderately injured as she ran for the shelter, and Magin David Adom, which is the equivalent of our Red Cross ambulance services, say that there were no major injuries. Now, the Houthis have claimed that they fired towards Ben Gurion Airport and towards a power plant in Jerusalem, as well as towards a US aircraft carrier stationed in the Red Sea. And staying on the subject of the Houthis, yesterday the United Nations Security Council convened at the request of Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, warned the Houthis, saying that this is a final warning. Meanwhile, I will read out what the UK's permanent representative to the UN said in a speech. She said, "The UK is deeply alarmed by the Houthis' continued missile and UAV attacks against Israel and their ongoing targeting of international shipping in the Red Sea. We strongly condemn these actions, these reckless actions, and call on the Houthis to stop immediately. There is no justification for these attacks. We are also clear on the role of Iran in fueling this escalation. Its long-standing financial and military support to the Houthis has enabled and exacerbated Houthi aggression. Iran bears responsibility for the actions of its proxies and must cease its illegal activity, which is destabilizing the region and threatening international peace and stability." The United Kingdom reiterates its support for Israel's right to self-defense in the face of Houthi attacks. And that is a right that the United States has also reiterated in recent days, saying Israel has every right to defend ourselves. And as Israel has said, that the Houthis are not just a threat to us here, but they are also a threat to the international communities. I'm sure you have all seen the astronomical rise in the cost of living in the countries where you live. A large part of this is because of the constant interruptions to shipping caused by Houthi attacks on shipping lines and shipping vessels. And finally, we now go to the Gaza Strip, and there has been an alarming increase in the amount of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip into Israel. Rockets were fired towards Jerusalem and the Negev on Saturday. Rockets were fired yesterday. In fact, quite a number of rockets were fired yesterday, and a short while ago today, rockets were fired. Now, I know that some of you are saying, how does Hamas still have rockets? Well, unfortunately, we won't be rid of the amount of rockets. And it also goes to show just how deeply embedded underneath the infrastructure in Gaza, underneath people's homes and mosques and schools and hospitals, the tunnels and the weapon storage facilities are, which is why we are still at war with Hamas in Gaza, even though we have dismantled the majority of those tunnels. And on the subject of tunnels, the IDF dismantled another tunnel earlier today situated under a mosque. And as Major Andrew Fox, who has been inside the Gaza Strip, and Major John Spencer, who's also been inside the Gaza Strip, as well as former NATO commanders, have said time and again, when you understand what happens subterranean in the Gaza Strip, you understand why you see so much destruction above ground. And I really urge everybody to read the reports from these military experts who have been there, are veterans of war themselves, and understand why the IDF is fighting the way that they do. Meanwhile, the IDF yesterday released footage of Hamas terrorists placing explosives about 45 meters away from a hospital. Israel has brooked a lot of criticism from the international community for raids on hospitals, but as you can no doubt tell, and again I quote from Major John Spencer, the Hamas terrorists have changed the protected status of hospitals, schools, mosques, people's homes into legitimate military targets under the laws of armed conflict by using them as command centers. So those are your top stories on this, our last day of 2024. Let's take a look at the last audience member question for the last day of 2024. And a reminder, if you have a question, please pop it in the comment section below or be in touch with us via our website. So this one comes from Rachel in Ireland, and always good to hear from our Irish friends, who says, how do you keep the faith and the fight when we are fighting against such a massive amount against us? Well, Rachel, I'll tell you a little secret. We are currently still celebrating Hanukkah. We will light our 7th candle a little later. And I draw the parallel on the stories of the Maccabees. The Maccabee army was so tiny compared to the massive Assyrian army at the time. And this tiny, tiny band of, really you could call them misfits for their time, managed to defeat the massive Assyrian army. And I do believe that when you fight with truth on your side, when you fight with divine providence on your side, and when you fight with facts on your side, it doesn't matter how small we are in comparison. I do believe that we will win. I do believe that it might seem like it's insurmountable, like it's Sisyphean at the moment. But Hanukkah is a story about miracles, and I believe in miracles, and I believe honestly that we have more support than we realize, because the silent majority stands with us. So I hope that answers your question, Rachel, and I hope it makes you feel a little stronger. And to quote from an ancient African proverb, you can fell an elephant with a mosquito. So that brings me to the end of today's edition of the Israel Brief. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottel's site. Our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief. We are on LinkedIn at Raleen Marks, on Instagram at Raleen_Marks, and on X at at Lay of the Land 5. Guys, God bless you. I want to take this opportunity to wish you all a wonderful 2025. May you all be blessed in abundance, and may our community continue to grow. So Happy New Year, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. God bless, and I will see you in the new year. Bye for now.